Greetings, YouTube. I have no idea how long this video is going to last, but it's going to be probably a bit longer than usual because I don't want to shorten the importance of so much work that was done on a now secret, hidden, ignored post. It looks so amazing. Console hit me up, my man, and said, "Insight into the testing process. Water through the cracks" is the title of this. And when I went to click it, wouldn't you know it, it doesn't exist anymore. Kabam. Usually Kabam just shuts down a thread, but the comments that were on the original thread exist, and then the forum post is now closed. Not with the case of this one. It's gone from public to secret. Please forget it. Men in Black mind eraser technology style. But Console, because not all heroes wear capes, decided before it got taken down that you should probably back up the thread with some recording technology because he anticipated that it was so spicy, was so emotional, dramatic, passionate, other adjectives, that he would record a video of it to feature on the channel. So he says, this post is a banger. They took it down, but here's what they're afraid to show. Now, being afraid to show something is certainly a high cost, a high bar. Now, I'm going to have to reveal to you, this is going to look terrible on video because the information is what's important, not the video. But it says, I know it's not really on players to understand the processes, timelines, and whatnot that go on behind the scenes of the games they play. But let's address this. There's a lot more to testing than tap, tap, tap special 2. How many different combinations or possibilities could come from that? How many times did the process proc versus not? Like you've all said, that is pretty RNG dependent. There are many different kinds of tests, and not everybody is or should be looking for balance. We spent an appropriate amount of time testing this, just like all other synergies, most of which launch without issue. There are things we can learn from this, and we'll update our tests to help catch them in the future. Now, when they say update the test, I hope they mean give the CCP more to do, because I think this is also a adamant failure of why the content creator program exists. You're supposed to use people that signed up for this free opportunity, unless they're getting some compensation now, to prevent stuff like this. They're supposed to be your testers. But if you only let them test certain champs or half the champs or champs that aren't in the right settings, then you're leaving content creators or even just any summoner to do the testing for you. And now that you can guarantee a 5-star, everybody becomes an instant CCP member once they buy the early access bundle, assuming you're Cavalier progression-wise and above. It also makes me a little nervous because we have seen a horrible idea in the past with a few synergies, and that's to make them 6-star specific, because then you can't test it unless you get the 6-star. In the early access bundle, it's almost impossible to get the 6-star featured champion. So this was not just this post, though. We have responses. And even though this man scrolled way too fast, let's go to the response, because it says, this discussion has been closed. Mike, the community has been through a lot, but this is where I have to press, because my wallet is not a punching bag for a lack of testing. When posed the question, how much testing was done, how many people looked at this synergy, responding by saying an quote-unquote appropriate amount is, number one, a non-answer, and number two, made false by the fact that we're having the discussion at all. The synergy was broken, so any claim that enough testing was done is almost necessarily false by default. Which, saying something was almost necessarily false is a really nice way to say, that's a lie, brother. I would ask any moderator for some insight into how much testing is actually done upon the release of new champions. From the Dev Diary about Quicksilver. We know that Quicksilver took a lot of work and the team made something special. Big kudos to everyone who worked to produce this banger. But problems with under-testing, which cost us real money, cannot be brushed off. Mike asserts that the RNG aspect is what made testing hard, but that enough testing was done. This is incongruent with the decided upon nerf. Kabam has decided to cap the prowess buffs at 3, implying that 4 results in too much damage. This, of course, immediately begs the question, did no dev fire a special 2 at 4 prowess? If 3 is the magic number, then how did no dev notice that at 4 or 5, things were getting out of hand? While it's true that RNG plays a large role when speaking of getting up to insane numbers of prowess, such as 8 or 9, hitting these smaller numbers is very easy. I don't think any member of the community would contend that getting somewhere around 4 or 5 is relatively easy to do in even one testing session. We will move on. Even in one testing session, I don't think any member of the community would contend that getting somewhere around 4 or 5 is relatively easy to do in even one testing session, if not one fight against our handy punching bag, Realm of Legends Winter Soldier. This leads us back to the testers. There is simply no way that between the CCP team, who had footage before release of the bundles of crazy stacks of prowess, and a team who put in appropriate testing, that this could have slipped through. All valid points. Where does this leave us? Either the statement needs further clarification and we're being misled about the actual amount of testing, or Kabam knew about the potential of the synergy and sold it anyways. And that's the argument, of course, that's been made for people who have requested refunds. But those of you who have requested Apple or Google Play refunds, Kabam is going to hit your account with negative units immediately. They're not going to give you a exception to this. They're just not. And I've seen people comment on other videos I've done on this that have said, I'm going to ask for a refund, or I asked for a refund. You've got to be prepared for that. It's just going to happen. I'm not saying that I want it to happen to your account. I'm just saying it's going to happen to your account. Either one warrants immediate attention to recoup the players who bought a $50 US bundle, or 2. Remember, it's limit 2. Now for the point I think we as spenders should get more realistic insight into exactly how much these items are being tested before being sold. Mike, you said something pretty terrifying in that your testers aren't necessarily looking for balance. What else is there to look for, short of the game not shutting down when I add Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch to the team and the prowess showing up? What else is there to test with the synergy this simple? If we are expected to catch the slack for very simple interactions, then we're not customers who got a bit of bad luck with a complex kit. We're employees doing bare minimum testing and who have somehow been duped into paying to test the products. Yeah, by the way, that wouldn't make us employees because Kabam's not paying us. We're paying Kabam, so we're not employees. We're negative paid interns. We're not unpaid interns. We're like, we'll give you money to be interns. Now, I also want to ask what steps are being looked at to resolve the decrease in value of the bundle we bought. I'd settle for Quicksilver being given out personally, but that's just me. Now, again, while that comment isn't entirely unreasonable, it is, for the moment, entirely unrealistic for Kabam standards. And there you have it. That was a really well thought out post originally, so well thought out that Kabam took it down from this summoner. I get that there is some percent of the community that feels that they were misled when they bought that. I still can't understand the point of a CCP if the CCP doesn't convince Kabam that they're going to have problems. Maybe what the CCP did, because remember, Kabam did this so that they could have a PR wing for themselves. They did this to make more money. They did this because they want people that the community trusts to make videos saying, you should give your money to Kabam because this champion is amazing. It's PR, everybody. It's why I am proudly not a member of the CCP. And why I made my application somewhat of a joke that then was a video about how they saw my name come up and I think I triggered everybody at that company. But regardless, it's a failure of the system. It's a failure of transparency. And it's a failure of the forums. If you're going to turn a very reasonable post into something that you just don't even allow people to read. If this screenshot video didn't exist from my man console, I wouldn't know what the original post even said. And I do appreciate that my friend Brian Shadowstrike sent me some screenshots of Kabam's response, but I want to know what they were responding to in the first place. Kabam, you have given us a chance to do the testing for you. It is not looking good. Understand that there needs to be more transparency also as to why the number 3 for prowess was chosen and the testing that went on. At minimum, that is what the community deserves. Otherwise, it's just going to lead to more distrust and people walking away from the game.